So I got back today to find this on my doorstep on a pallet. It's the Orange Giga Storm by Elegoo. Now, I've got quite a good relationship with Elegoo because I think their products are really good actually for the price point that they're at and for the functionality. I think they're pretty awesome, so I'm very supportive of Elegoo, and you kind of have to bear that in mind a little bit. But they sent me this, and this is their, like I say, their Orange Giga Storm, and they released it on a Kickstarter campaign back in April, and they were asking $1,250, and they raised about over $3 million for it. You can find it on the shop at $2,500, but it's sold out. So it's going to be a little while before you can get your hands on one of these, but they sent me this as part of my ongoing relationship with them to give it a go and see what it does. Absolutely huge. I can't lift those, so there's no way I'm taking these in. I'm going to have to open the boxes here and take all the stuff inside a bit at a time because that's just too heavy for me to lift. And there's two of them that it arrives in, so I'm pretty excited to get this put together. Talk about it a bit, run it through some paces, but the first thing to do, I think, is to get it open while the sun is still shining and it won't get rained on, and get it inside. So it comes in two packages, top and bottom. This is the bottom pack, and it's incredibly well packed, which Elegoo stuff is. So we'll take that out and put it inside. Okay, so here it is inside. Now the packaging was awesome, and that's a bit of a problem really, because everybody complains about too much packaging and then winds on if there's some damage, but this was beautifully packaged, and true to form, the amount of bits to put together aren't actually that much. There's this big heavy base, there's this two sides, that one and that one, which are aluminium extrusion, and then we've got these mighty bars here, which are about 25mm, and then we've got about 12.5mm screw threads, one on either side, and then we've got the carriage here, and the top cross bracing there. So, not that much to put together, and it comes with a little sort of booklet telling you how to do it, and Elegoo say there's an instruction video available on their site as well. But to be honest, it really is Lego. They've got dowel pins to locate everything. Every little bag's got numbers on, so these bottom screws, they're in the manual telling what they are, and hey presto, the bottom screws are there with the label on telling you what they are. And of course they supply a little bag of tools. I mean, if you've got tools, and brilliant, it'll be a little bit quicker. I'm going to put it together with this set that they've given us, just to see that we can actually put it together with the set they've given us. Now, the base unit has little dowel pegs there that these side units slot onto. So you slot it on the side unit and then screw in the bolts. So let's slot it on. And the hole's pretty obvious, they're right there. There's four of them. We tighten it down. And then repeat that with the other side. So in all four corners, you've got to fit one of these corner brackets, and it just slots in there and bolts there and there with two different sizes screws. But again, in the manual, it tells you what size they are, and the sticky part is on the bag. So we just fit that into the corner, and we have to do that on all four sides. There you go, so it's like that. And all the four uprights have a corner. Right, when we've done that, we need to put these braces in, and there's a back and a front. The back one's the one with all the wires, and it goes where the electrical cable goes and where the on-off switch is. And you just line them up with those lugs on the top there. There we go. And then we have to put the corners in like we did at the bottom, so we need these corners, and they'll fit right there, and obviously round all four corners. Then we need to do the front, and the front is the one that's got the pretty logo on it, and that goes in exactly the same way. Okay, now we've got that far with it, we've got to put this track on. Now it's not particularly heavy, but it is awkward, and there are three clips retaining it that you need to snip off, and we've got to get it onto here and here, those four lugs. And this is where another pair of hands would come in handy, but I don't have another pair of hands. There's a stepper motor at the back, right there, and that's got to face to the back and downward. So let's put this in. So right here underneath the carriage there are the slots where the plates fit in, and there's the bolts there, and there's 2 of them to each carriage plate. So that's the mechanical side of it put together. It took me about 30 or 40 minutes by myself, and I personally didn't have any problem with it apart from lifting this base, because it is a beast. The whole thing itself weighs over 100 kilos. I think it's 104. So it was quite a lift, because remember it's only 5 parts. It was quite a lift to get this base in, but once I'd done that, it didn't actually cause me much of a problem. Now, it is large. The print bed here is 800 by 800 by 1 metre. The machine itself is 1.2 by 1.2 by 1.4, roughly. It needs walk-around room, so I've left it away from the walls, so it does take up quite a bit of space. I mean, when Elegoo took this around the shows, it was touted as an industrial printer, and it's certainly printing huge-sized stuff. So if you're doing stuff like, I don't know, printing your own furniture all in one go, or maybe suits of armour where you don't want to have seams, and this is the thing for you. But it's the tool that it is. It's meant for large printing, and it's meant for probably industrial use. So if you want something like this, then the price point of this is £2,500, and that's a lot of machine for your money. It's pretty impressive stuff. I do like a nice bit of worked steel, aluminium and brass. So I do like machines as just machines. And when you think about something this size able to do that kind of job, then you're looking at a fundamental change in the way we view making things. I mean, they started off probably in the 80s, and they were a bit, you know, a bit of something that, well, tech heads would play with. And then in the late 2010s, the price plummeted, and you could buy these things for next to nothing. And now, as we go into the mid-2020s, because we're getting this kind of stuff, which has great potential, but it's going to be something that you have to have a job to do, in which case it's probably going to be awesome. Now, I do have the leads to put together, which we're going to do next, and the main cables are already threaded for you, so it's going to be pretty much the same job, not take long at all to do that, but let's get on with that. First thing, a couple of bolts here to hold the bottom of the caterpillar track to the main carriage. Then we need to feed the caterpillar track down, and there's this little L-shaped clip or Z-shaped clip that goes in there. There's a couple of holes there to screw it in, and you screw that in to hold the caterpillar track in place. At the bottom of the caterpillar track we've got a little plastic fitting with 3 holes in it, and that matches up with 3 holes right there, and again we put 3 bolts in there. So if you look under the main carriage, right there you'll see 2 little bolt holes. So those bolt holes are right here, and therefore these, they go on there, and they are the end stop sensors. There's one either side. As the carriage lowers, the sensor goes into there and acts as an end stop. It's getting exciting, time to put on the print head. Now there are 4 bolts that hold it, 2 at the front, 2 at the back. Those 2 you put in, and you align the print head to the steel plate, tighten them down, and then put the back bolts in. Screen just snaps on. There we go. So the filament guide assembly, you'll see a whole load of holes at the back here in these 4 wires when we assembled it. That's because we can run this thing with 4 different rolls and 4 different print heads. It's supplied with 1, so we're just going to fit 1, but you can fit up to 4 of them, and that just screws onto the back there. Now this is the filament spool assembly, and that goes on another couple, and this is going to be used when you use like a 1 kilogram spool and you're going to feed it down. This one's when you use a much bigger one, and of course the Elegoo did come with a bigger roller feeder that goes at the back here, and that's what the guide assembly does, it feeds it up through there. This one is when you're going to hang a roll on, and that just bolts into another couple of the holes. So that's the tray that for the bigger spools, just go on the floor. And it does come with 2 brake guides. So these are the filament brake detectors, and we're going to feed it off of there, so we can put that on there. There's another one on there, so you can have it either side depending on what you feel like, and there's a brake detector right there for the guide assembly, and that just fits on there. Right, that is the assembly completed. Now we have to plug the wires in, but because this came basically part assembled, the wires are all laid for you, and it's pretty obvious where things go, but in the manual it does give you a little picture to make sure you know where things are being plugged in, and you can only plug them in one way, so obviously that wire's right there and it plugs into the filament detector. That one would plug into that filament detector, and if you had more detectors you would plug those in, so we just leave that alone now and go around and plug in the wires. The screen plugs in here, right next to the emergency stop switch, and that's the USB drive for USB transfer. Here at the base you'll find a little cable with 3 pins. It goes into the sensor, and there's another one on the opposite side that you do the same with. Right by the stepper motor you'll find another wire with 5 pins, and that obviously plugs into the stepper motor, and again on the other side it's identical. And at the back here we've got a little jumble of wires that all plug into here, but it's again all pretty obvious. That plugs in there, and then where we've got these ones you'll notice there's an X minus and an X, and right there is an X minus and an X, and they're all labelled, and we plug them into their sockets. And the printhead cable is right there. Right, one final job to do. On this side, the left hand side, you'll see there are 4 yellow stickers. On the right hand side there's 1 yellow sticker, and then the power supplies. There are 5 power supplies on this, and you have to just make sure that they're set to the right voltage for your country. I'm in the UK, so we're at 230 volts, and just look down that port and you'll see it'll say 120, or is it 120 or 110? 110 or 230. And there's a flip switch in there, so you can flip them to the right one, but check the set of the right setting for your country. For me it's 230, and then we're finished. Okay, that's it, completely finished, done with only the tools supplied. So everything you need is in the box. Now, it took me about an hour and a half, 2 hours to get the whole thing together. I've still got to level it, but I didn't find it particularly challenging, apart from the base, which was a little heavy for me to lift. The rest of it, I found a bit of a breeze, to be honest. Now, I've done this unbox and build, and that's going to be standalone. We'll look at the levelling of it and setting up of it in the software in the next video. And then, of course, we're going to print something. Anything printed on this is going to be, well, time consuming. And that's one of the drawbacks of an FDM printer like this with a single head. It takes time to actually print it. Now, that doesn't bother me too much because, you know, the theory is you can just set them printing and going. So the time you're using is your contact time. You just leave it alone and it does it for you. And of course, that is sort of a bit like H.G. Wells, the shape of things to come. You know, to what extent are we going to go out and buy stuff we need, and to what extent are we just going to get the design and print stuff we need? I mean, this thing, it's going to print furniture, no problem at all. It's going to print all kinds of stuff, no problem at all. The durability of it, well, I'm not so sure. It might be just suitable for prototypes, but certainly it's a good indication of where we're going with this stuff. And if you think about the speed of development in the last 10 years, the fact that Elegoo are making a monster like this is really impressive, actually. It's quite astounding, and I find it quite exciting, and I'm looking forward to getting the levelling done, reporting back, and getting some printing done and reporting back. Right now I've got this beautiful piece of machinery sitting there waiting to be levelled up, and we'll be doing that in the next video. I hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you very much for watching, and please do remember to like and subscribe.